one day and gone the next. Have you ever had someone walk into your life and it felt like it was meant to be? Like the timing was perfect, the connection made sense, and you just assumed they would be part of your life for a very long time. And then one day, they weren't. Maybe it was a friendship that slowly faded. Maybe it was a relationship that ended in heartbreak. Maybe it was just someone who hurt you, betrayed you, or simply walked away without the closure that you felt you deserved. And if you're like most people, your first reaction probably was not gratitude. It was anger, confusion, hurt. You replay the conversations, the memories, the ending over and over and over again in your head, trying to understand what went wrong. Sometimes we even try to prove something after people leave. We want to prove we're better without them. We want to prove they made a mistake. We want to prove we were worth staying for. But what if we've been looking at it all wrong? What if some people are never meant to stay forever? What if some people come into our lives only for a season, to teach us something, to help us grow, to get us through something? And when that season is over, so is their role in our life. Today's episode is about the people who were here one day and then gone the next, and the truth that we must learn about the people who enter our lives. So let's get into it. Hey guys, it's your host Maddie on the High Road Podcast, and I normally start my episodes, I realize, saying that I'm incredibly excited for this episode, and I realize that's quite a habit of mine, but it really is the truth. Like every single episode, I'm so excited, I'm so passionate, I've worked on what I wanted to say and, created a script, and it's taken me like ample amounts of time to work on every episode. And so it just is something that's really, really special to me. But today's episode is a little different. I have a little bit of a disclaimer, and that is truly that I am really just in an emotional place. I think I'm in one of my most vulnerable places while talking about what's currently going on in this topic and just the season that I'm in, and surrendering to things that I can't control, and to the things that I've had to let go of. And, just it's been a time where I've really had to, again, sit with myself and, face a lot of discomfort. And I realize over and over again that I get the opportunity to have these seasons and to have these times. And while I'm so incredibly grateful for them, it never gets easier. At one point in my life, it was a lot easier when I distracted myself and I wasn't mindful. And I had a lot of unhealthy habits, but I'm trying my hardest to grow and to better myself, and to, be mindful and do things differently, and no longer do things that don't serve me anymore. And so I think with this episode today, I just kind of wanted to have this like side note that I truly might become emotional. It's about recent events that happened in my life that truthfully are very, very hurtful, and I've had to sit with them for quite some time. But the events that I will share today, they're going to only be with a point. So I say over and over again on my podcast that this is never a place where I would put someone on blast, or I would share information that does not have a purpose. especially if it's just me doing the podcast. Like, I would never put someone else in the position to where it's like, okay, well, I couldn't defend myself, right? It's like, so everything that I say will have a purpose. And so if there's like something that I mention and you're like, well, it sounds like she's kind of putting that person on blast, like just stay with me. Just know that there's going to be, like a point to it, and it's wrapped around the summary of what I want to talk about today. And that is that people, every single person that comes into our lives has some sort of purpose. And I think that as people, especially when we face really, really hard seasons, really, really tough, things that end, especially ones that didn't go as planned, and especially when we're blindsided by things, it's really, really hard to see the good in that, to see the purpose in that. And I have been someone where I look back and I think, man, now I understand why I had to go through that. But if you would have asked me during that time, there's absolutely no way I would have been like, there's no good to this, right? Because the things that we're going through when we're in the middle of that tunnel are so hard. Some of the seasons and the people that come into our lives, it's like, this is really, really tough when something ends or when something doesn't go the way that we thought that it would, when we feel hurt, especially when we feel hurt by the actions of other people. And so I just want to remind you today that no matter where you're at, if you're in this place, if you're not, if you've been here before where it's like, man, I don't see the point in this. I want to talk about just the truth as to when people come into our lives and how we can rewire our brains to not just be angry and resentful and all the things that, that we go through and the normal emotions. Truthfully, like, we can feel all of those things. Being angry is okay. Acting out of anger is not. I always say that. And how we can go through these seasons when things don't go our way with the people that we thought would be around forever. And how we can rewire our brains from being angry and thinking that that season had no purpose, when truthfully that doesn't have to be the case. So I do have a story to share with you today. And again, it's a recent one. It's a story that brings me a lot of emotion. I'm currently very much going through the grief process, and just sitting with myself and sitting with all of the, like, just this beautiful process of having moments of sadness and intense, like, discomfort. And you're like, that's beautiful. Well, it is, because then, like, I can experience those really low moments, and then it helps me to really focus on, like, the simplicity of life. And then, then the next moment I can be sitting at the table coloring with my kids, and it's like, I'm at peace, like, it's just little things that I'm trying to find, to look forward to, and the little things that I have to look forward to already. And I think that it's just a beautiful thing as people, that we can feel all of the emotions in one day, in one season, even sometimes in 1 hour, or like in one situation. Even one person can bring us so many emotions, and that's what I'm currently going through. It's no secret that I had a relationship that was very serious to me. It was a serious relationship. We were together for a year. He was a very, very special person to my children, to myself, and we had a lot of plans as to what our future was going to look like. And it, of course, recently ended. And so it's been a long road of grieving. And I say long road because that's what it feels like, even though it's only been about like a month and a half. But it's been long because like it's not just me, it's my kids. It's like so many things have changed, and how it ended was completely different than any part of the relationship. I felt like my relationship was very loving and very wonderful, and we were able to work on ourselves and work together and like accomplish all of these amazing things as parents, because that was the first time, of course, that I had ever like parented with someone. My children's father, I haven't really parented with him. And of course, that was my ex's, my boyfriend at the time. That was his first time parenting. And so it was just an incredible process to go through that with someone. And so it just was a lot of really, really good things. And I always will have so many respectful things to say about that. But truthfully, that's not where my mind has been the past couple days. And I'm going to dive into that. Like the ending of my relationship was extremely confusing. There was a lack of closure. Like there was disrespect that I never seen coming. Like just something was very off. Near the end of my relationship, I felt very lonely. I didn't feel like it was two-sided anymore. Like I felt like it was just kind of me trying to fight for it to continue to work. And I just felt very, very, very disconnected. And again, like that's not to say that near the end of my relationship that I didn't do anything wrong, or that I didn't that there aren't things that I could have communicated better, nothing like that, right? Like it's just my perception, and people can be in the same situation as you and have a very, very, very different perception. But basically, like it just was extremely blindsiding, the whole end of it. And so my kids and I, long story short, we grieved, and we've been grieving. And to explain that to my children when he was truly like the only person who, my kids have an incredible grandpa. Like my dad is so amazing, and he's everything for them. Like that's their the male in their lives. But my ex was, truthfully the only other one, and he was in that dad role. And so to explain that to them just crushed them. And it was a lack of closure for them. And so I did everything that I could to just bridge that gap, to like mend whatever I could. Like we read books, we talked about it, I put my kids in counseling. Like we are currently, to this day, and we will be working through this. It was a huge life transition because of everything that he meant to us, because of everything that we were. Like, we were a family. And so everything just looked different for us. It felt different. I noticed that my kids began to have like normal, I don't know what you would call it, but they began to have struggles that kids usually have when there's big transitions. And so I had noticed that, my kids stopped sleeping well at night. Like for an entire, I don't know, year and a half, they had been sleeping in their beds. They just, every now and then, like they would wake up, but they just stopped sleeping at night. Like they would wake up, they would make sure that I was here, they would come into my bed, they didn't want to go into their own rooms. My daughter started wetting the bed. Like my son just stopped doing things that he used to love to do with my ex. It was heartbreaking as their mom. And like this is the part where I'm like trying to hold it together, because it's so sad to see your kids not even fully be able to comprehend or to fully understand, and for them to, like express it in the best way that they could. And, but then for them to also be so resilient. Like I remember just staring at them like, I could never do such a good job like they do. Like they just keep going, and they just had a major life transition that they cannot control. They can't control that this happened. And they're just doing the best that they can. Like it was also so incredibly motivating to me, while it was completely heartbreaking for me. And while they were grieving, like I was grieving too. So I'm parenting as I'm also trying to grieve someone that I lost. Like, and it wasn't even that, because near the end of my relationship, I felt very disconnected, right? But when it ended, I felt like I had lost the person that was my family. I felt like I lost my best friend, my partner, because in the last moments, that wasn't like who he was in our relationship. Who he was to our family was not what he had shown me. And so there was no longer like gentleness and kindness and patience. Like it was now what was being shown to me was random anger and random like resentfulness and like even being mean. And that just was so heartbreaking and sad and blindsiding and so confusing to me. And so, my last podcast was about surrendering, and that was a huge piece of it. And I had to surrender to what I could not control. What had happened near the end really, truly, led me to believe that, things were happening that were disrespectful. Things were happening that, he clearly didn't want to confront me on or make me aware. But whatever it was, I just didn't care to find out the details. Like what I was seeing was more than enough. And I didn't even know, I didn't even have the evidence. I knew that it was not going to serve me and my kids well. And so throughout this, month and a half, I've prepared myself in case I see him, right? It's a small town, like, and I'm going through all these emotions. So like some days I'm sad, some days I'm really angry, some days I'm like, okay, it's getting better. I'm feeling okay. Like it's very much just a roller coaster. And truthfully, like just throwing it out that I was being honest and truthful with myself. Like I was also preparing myself to see him with someone else. And, at that point, like I knew that he was no longer my responsibility. Like that was going to hurt. Don't get me wrong, especially, moving so quickly, but I prepared myself mentally for it, whatever the case was. Right. And so I was just hoping that if I did see him, it would be like positive. I wanted nothing more than to have peace with him. And that's not exactly what happened. And, that it bothers me. So long story short, like I didn't see him at all. I haven't seen him until just a few days ago. And it was at an event. And so I was way up in the stands and he was way down below. And like, I mean, I don't know how I seen him. Like, I have no idea. It was kind of like there was just a light shone right there. And I was like, why? Why did I have to see this? Like, out of all the times when it could have been positive, like, because what I seen was so disappointing to me. Like, disappointing is not even the word that can even begin to explain it. And so I can't get the image out of my head of how I seen it and, where I seen him and what he was doing in that moment. And so I had immediately started crying. My mom was with me and my kids were with me, and I just said, I need some air. Like, I have to go outside. So my plan is to walk outside, go take a lap, come back in, enjoy the event, right? But that doesn't happen. I'm fuming because I'm so freaking pissed. The rage that was inside me was anger that I truthfully had never felt before. And that says a lot. Because I've been through a lot of bullshit with people. What I felt was beyond anger. And so I had seen him with a girl, whatever, right? Like, it's not whatever. That's really, really hurtful to me. But what hurt was that I had known this girl. But what hurt the most was that this girl had children. And this girl had her kids there with him. And I had planned to go outside and go for a walk, and whatever was in me, not whatever is in me, that sounds like possessive. My like fleshly, like, just the I'm a imperfect person, and knew that I could not ignore it. And whether that was the right thing or the wrong thing, I don't know in that moment. Like, I actually showed a lot of self-control, truly, because like what I was feeling, I can't even put into words. I truly deserved a pat on the back because of the self-control that I had shown. But I had gone directly, up to them where they were sitting. And like, don't take this left. Don't think that I'm crazy, nothing like that. But I had just sat there, and I had turned around and I just said, what? Like, I think I said that maybe 5 or 6 times. I don't know. Like, I just kept saying, what? Like, I was there was nothing else that I could spit out. And there were 1,000,001 things that I wanted to say. There were a lot of things that I truthfully could have done, but I showed a lot of self-control because of how, like, what I was feeling was, I cannot explain to you how angry I was. And it's just that I couldn't get over the kid part, right? And because I'm thinking of everything that me and my kids have gone through, everything. And the hurt and the pain and the grieving and what that looked like in the taking steps back. And just this entire process and what it's been for us. And for him to do that in public, like, just almost like he was replacing us, is truthfully what it felt like. So I said what a couple times, and I left, and I walked outside, and I must have walked around for 20 minutes. And I was shaking, and I nearly puked. Like I literally made myself sick. The entire situation made me so sick. And I don't know if you've ever been that enraged by something, but when you are so mad you're going to throw up, it means that your body is literally like cannot handle the what you're feeling inside. The rest of the day I could barely breathe. Like I just was in almost like a constant panic attack. And it was just because like that whole situation triggered me so much with every experience I ever had that I had tried so hard to work through. And then it was like, it hasn't even been 2 months. And not only are you with someone else, like that's your choice, you're no longer my responsibility, but to go and pretend like you're now, I don't know, daddy to some other kids. That was more than a stab in the back. That was more than a slap across the face. It felt like he was replacing the family that we had. It felt like my kids meant nothing. And so the next few days, I begin grieving all over again, basically. But it's very, very different this time. Because the first time it was like, okay, I'm grieving this situation. Like, this is what happened. I don't have closure, but I'm just going to take it with what it was. And over time, things will get better. And my kids will work through this, right? Like I'm having that hope. But this situation brought out so much anger and triggered me in such a way that I began hurting for my children all over again, except 10 times worse. So after about 2 days of going through these feelings and not being able to get the images out of my head and not being able to sleep at night, basically, it's starting to consume me, right? Like it's not even starting to, it has been consuming me. So I do everything that I can to cope. And there's huge pieces in me that think, okay, if I do what I used to do, I could distract myself, right? I could do what he's doing and distract himself with a new person. I could go back to my old ways and not talk about my feelings, pretend like I don't give a shit, all of the things, be vengeful. And I just don't. And that's hard. That's hard when you have habits and patterns and things that you used to do that now you don't want to do anymore. But something hurts you so badly, it's so tempting to go back. But I tell myself that that's just not who I am, and my heart's not there anymore. So I try to find all of the coping skills that I can. I write a letter to him that I'm never going to send him because it's really, really, really mean. It's really mean. And sorry, I didn't think that's funny. It's just that it is really not nice. And I would never, I would never be mean to him, even with how things went for me. I'm a firm believer in just being who you are, not letting anybody be able to control that, no matter what they do, no matter the choices that they make. And so, I write a letter to him. I pray. I take time to myself. I'm spending time alone. I'm just a roller coaster of emotions. At random times I'll be grieving and it will just hit me uncontrollably. Other times I just couldn't get certain things out of my mind. Other times I would try to sleep. I would go to the gym. I'd gone to the gym twice a day, sometimes even. I would try to do things that would keep me busy with my kids. I wanted, it was almost like I wanted healing. I wanted to move past it, but I also really, really, really wanted to be angry. I wanted, and don't get me wrong, there's a huge piece of me that's very angry. I wanted to prove to him that I was so much better without him. I wanted him to mess up with this new girl, like I felt like he messed up with me. I wanted him to tell me how sorry he was and to take responsibility. I wanted his new relationship to break. And I wanted him to have regrets. Those are all the things that I think when something doesn't go our way in a relationship, in a friendship with another person, and that person hurts us, whether it's intentional or unintentional, it's kind of in our nature. And when we're angry, to just be like, I'm going to prove some sort of point to this person. And so that's where I've sat the last couple days until tonight. I was sitting at the table just doing some arts and crafts with my kids. And all day long, just different thoughts and things like that have come into my head, and I've just been a little bit of like an emotional roller coaster. And it was almost like a feeling came over me that was not even mine. And it's because I wanted to be angry. Like it really is easier to be angry than it is to be sad. Like when I was in the gym, even the other day, like when I started to get sad, what do? Like you put on some badass music and you just like freaking pump it out with some weights, you know? It's easier to be angry than it is to grieve or to be sad. So I wanted to be angry. And I randomly just started crying. I walked away and I'm just like, okay, this is just another, moment that I'm having. And so I just quickly realized it was like, I just couldn't even be mad. The last moments of my relationship hurt so badly. And so I wanted to be so angry about how it went. So angry. And there were so many things that I just didn't understand. But I realized that I couldn't stay mad because of all the really good things that came from it. That my ex-boyfriend was an incredible person. I firmly believed that he wanted to be everything that he told me. It doesn't mean that he did it, right? It just means that I think he wanted to be those things. I believe that he wanted to be my husband and to be a good one. I believe that he wanted to be a good dad. I believe that he wanted to encourage other people and share his gift and that he had all of these dreams. I firmly believe that. I also firmly believe that there were things that he was going through, things that he was up against, things that he didn't ask for. There were so many memories that we had as a family that were good. He was my very best friend. He was an amazing dad to my children. And he didn't even know how, right? Like, he came into their lives when they were, 3 and 4. And he didn't even know how. He just winged it. And he was great at it. I couldn't be mad. And not being mad didn't mean that I was going to justify what he did that hurt me. Because the things that were not okay were simply not okay. The things that happened at the end, or the things that I didn't know about, or the things that were secrets, they weren't okay. And when people do these things, they're facing something that maybe they're not able to comprehend themselves, that they're not able to face themselves, something that's within them. They're not able to confront reality. Whatever the case is, it didn't make it okay. But I wasn't going to let the last moments and the things that happened take away the year of my life, the year of my children's life. That was so good. Because I'm not naive to the fact that people can fake, that people can lie. And if that was the case, it is what it is. But my perception and my reality was that wasn't it. And I will believe that while also being realistic and understanding that how it all went down was not for me. But if this person was supposed to be in my season, in one particular season, for a reason that I believe that in the future I will firmly understand, I will find out the exact purpose. I believe in I believe in that. I don't believe in bad people. Don't get me wrong, there's evil people out there. There's really, really, really evil people. So take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. There's always an exception to what I say. But I mainly believe in people who make bad choices because they suffer. I believe in people who make bad choices because they hurt. In people who make bad choices because they lack coping skills and capabilities. And I believe that this person who was so incredibly important to me just didn't have what we needed. Whether it was a lack of coping skills, whether it was a lack of ability, whatever the case was. And I just couldn't be mad. Because I think everybody does the best that they can with what they have. And so, I continued to think about that. This is all when I'm just taking a break, right? From arts and crafts with my kids. And I go through a moment of grief. And then I'm okay for a second. And then I just burst into tears. Because something comes to me that absolutely was not from me. Because I want to remind you for the 100th time, I wanted to be angry. It's easier for me to be angry. But this girl that my ex was with, I knew little pieces of her history. Just little pieces. I don't know much about her. I have known of her for a very long time, but I just knew certain pieces and, at certain jobs that we've had and things like that, we've crossed paths, and we would cross paths on social media, things like that. We would end up at the same store, always say hi, that was just about it. But I did know, just simple things about her. And I knew that some of her hurts were like a lot of mine. And this is where I get really emotional. This is why what if her and her kids needed him? in this season. And that might sound funny, right? Like that might be like, it doesn't work like that. Like people don't just get passed around. Like I'm not saying that. But I wanted to have it all. I wanted my kids to have it all, right? We all should believe that we deserve really good things. And this was the really good thing that I thought that me and my kids deserved. But what if me and my kids are okay? What if we are resilient enough? What if I am more than enough for my children all on my own? What if we learn so much from the time that we had as a family with him? And what if we also learn so much in this process of grieving? There's already been so many things that I've learned as a parent. There's already been so many things that I think, oh my gosh, like the communication and the checking in and just the different, like finding ways that I can communicate with my kids on their level. And the reading books and them talking about things and being open and vulnerable at preschool as they're talking about grieving with their preschool friends. There has been so much of this process that has been so amazing to me. So what if we're okay? What if we just needed him for a season to learn, to grow? That he was never supposed to be with us long term. But what if it was supposed to help me to know what to do as a parent and what not to? What if it was supposed to help me to, like, the idea of dating again repulses me, truthfully, but like, what if it was supposed to help me to know who can have access to us and who can't, and the things that I need to do, the things that I need to look out for, the things that I didn't know before. And then after that season, what if then he needed to go? And what if he needed to grow and learn the things that he needed to with us, and then to go be with someone else who needs what he has? And I'm not highlighting on the fact of the things that went wrong, because again, I don't believe that people need to be defined by their weakest or their worst moments. But I do believe in patterns and, the things that I had seen, the things that were happening in my relationship. I knew that I could not continue. And sometimes that means that people are going to cycle. Sometimes it means that people are going to repeat that in their next relationship, and the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing, until they're willing to work on themselves. I'm aware of all that. I'm not naive to that. But I also do believe that sometimes when one door closes, another one opens, and sometimes people come into people's lives for a reason. They do. Like, I firmly believe that, not just sometimes. And I guess the most emotional thing for me as I'm grieving, as I'm going through this process, I'm just thinking, like, what if this was the case? Like, what if she needs him more? What if he needs that season with her and her family? Like, and it sounds ridiculous, right? Because it's like, this is what I think is actually happening. I think that it's really just a distraction, or I think it's really just like he cheated on you, like whatever the case. Like, I understand everybody who's listening, what could be going through your mind. I get that. It's gone through my head too, 1,000,001 times. But what if we can rewire our brains to believe that when people come into our lives and it's only for a season, but there serves a purpose, even if there's hurt. And I want to thank you so much for listening to my very long story, my story that was very emotional. And I'm quite surprised actually that I held back my tears as much as I did. But we're going to really quick take a break. And when we come back, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the truths that we don't always want to hear about the people who leave our lives. And more importantly, we're going to talk about how we can start rewiring our minds to see these situations differently. Because staying stuck in anger, hurt, and trying to prove something to people who are no longer in our lives only keep us stuck in a chapter that's already over. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Hey guys, and we're back. Thank you so much for sticking with me, because now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the hard truths that we must know when people leave our lives. And we also are going to talk about how we can actually rewire our brains to be able to be grateful and to go through the process that we need to, rather than staying stuck in anger and feeling resentful towards a season in our life that really truly could have been something that we really needed, whether it was a lesson or whether it was a redirection, but it was a certain season that we needed with a certain person that was aligned and calculated to us for a purpose. And we don't ever want to miss that. So the first truth that I want to talk about, number one, is obviously that not everybody is meant to stay. People are supposed to help us through seasons. Right? I just said that people can be truly calculated in our lives. Think about all the people that are in the world. What is there? Is it like 6 billion or something like that? And the people that are in your life now. And if you're in a small town, or like you might be like, it's really not that special to meet someone. And there's 400 people in this town. I'm obviously going to run into this guy over and over and over again. But to think about the people that you run into, the things that happen, the people that you can, whether you meet online, the people that you meet in college, the people that you meet when you're out of town, everything is calculated. The person who knows somebody that knows you, your sister, I don't know, I'm just coming up with stuff. It's really actually amazing when you think about it, about how we actually run into people and how actually people come into our lives and how calculated it is. And there's people that can experience so many of your seasons, right? You can be married for 20, 30 years. You can be married from 18 to death. Those things happen. You're with someone for such a long time. Your parents, your siblings, they experience so many seasons. And then there's other people who just experience one. Whether it's a short season or a long season, they just experience one season. But it can be an impactful season, and it could be a season that is calculated and you can't miss it. You can't go without. I think all the time of my life in a way where I'm like, if I went without that season, I would not have what I have now. If I went without that season, I would not, I think all the time about how my children's father, who, I talk about on here, and just kind of the history with that, the factual history with that, and everything that it has brought me. But that was a really tough season for me. And I blamed and I lost peace for a really, really long time. But when I was able to really get out of that and actually see that season for what it was, I think, my gosh, if I didn't have that season, I wouldn't have my kids. If I didn't have that season, I wouldn't be who I am now. If I wouldn't have that season, I would never be mindful. Like, and most importantly, again, I wouldn't have my kids. Like, that, there's things that we look back and we're like, oh my gosh, if I could just go without it. I see the viral TikTok now that's so special to me. I don't know if you guys have seen it, those of you who are listening, but it's like a door that a person is walking into in the video, and it says, like, the caption is something like, if you walk through this door, you'll never experience, hurt, pain, sadness, betrayal, lying, cheating, all the things, right? Like all the really, really, really hard emotions, all the really, really hard things and seasons that people go through. And the person will, in every video, will get up to the door, and then they'll turn around. Or it could be like, if you walk through this door, you won't experience these things, or like it basically is tied back to, like, you are the person that you are because of these things, or you have your kids, whether it's from a situation or a relationship that didn't work out or didn't go even well, but you still have them, and you still have the person that you are now, and how incredibly impactful and powerful that is. So if you haven't seen that TikTok, if you haven't seen that video, I really encourage you to watch it. Not that video, but like the viral TikTok that's going around that people are doing. Truth number 2. Pain is often about the future that we imagined, not always the person. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of pain that comes from people. There's a lot of pain that comes from the stupid stuff that people do. Like my story, my very long story at the beginning was a prime example of that. What happened made me very, very angry, because the choices that were made were hurtful to me, because it felt very personal. It felt very directed. It felt very targeted at me. And the truth is a lot of things don't have anything to do with you at all. A lot of things don't have anything to do with me at all. It's just about how people cope and, what their choices are with that. But it's not always the person that brings us the pain. Sometimes it's just about losing and grieving what we thought was going to happen, what we thought was going to be our future. We have to be able to accept that people can choose a different path. But how people choose a different path says a lot about who they are as a person. And, that's where it's like, if there's lying, if there's cheating, if there's betrayal, if there's disrespect, yeah, that says a lot about you. Everybody has the right to choose what they want to do. Like, nobody truly is tied to one another, right? Like, you can be married, but you still can have the choice to get divorced. Like, everybody has a choice. And how you go about that, how you go about choosing a different path, says a lot about you as a person. So even if you have closure, even if like the letting go is mutual, whether, it's the completely opposite of like, this person just did me wrong. If you have the good things when your relationship, when your friendship ends, understand that it still can bring anger and hurt. Like, you can feel, two things at once. You can feel anger and hurt and sadness, and also gratefulness, and also like, this is mutual and you're right. We need to let this go. Truth number 3. Trying to prove something to people who are no longer in your life keeps you very stuck. This is something that I'm reminding myself currently right now, because it keeps that other person in control, right? Like, think about the story that I just told you and how much of my mind it has taken up. It has taken up my time. It has taken up my freaking sleep, which pisses me the hell off. If you listen to my last podcast, I went on like a 4-minute spiel about how if I lose sleep, I freaking can't stand it. And like it's taken up just so much of my headspace. I'm just exhausted by it. It keeps the other person in control. So if you like are in this situation today and you're like, I'm going to lose 60 pounds and frickin' show their asses, they're going to want me back. Don't do it. Like, don't do anything for them. They're no longer in your life. Truthfully, if you do that, honestly, what's probably going to happen is you're going to do that and you're going to expect a certain reaction from them that they're not going to give you, and then you're going to get really pissed off and start the whole cycle all over again. If you're going to do something, do it for you. Don't do it for anybody else, especially someone who's no longer in your life. You can just assume that they're not going to care. And like, that sounds really, really harsh, right? And it's not always how situations go. Like, there's many people who are not in my life anymore, and I still very much care about them. But if things ended really badly, or someone showed you, who they are, or at least what they were going to choose. If someone showed you that they were going to choose betrayal, secrets, lying, that they were going to choose distraction, that they were going to choose disrespect over, the hard stuff, uncomfortable conversations, sitting with themselves, like being able to cope with those hard things and relationships ending and giving you like the closure that you deserved. It totally depends on how that person went about it. But doing anything for them is just going to simply keep them in control. And I had to really ask myself, like, why do people do this? Why am I doing this? What is the point? And I think it's often because like we're still just emotionally connected. I think of the relationships that I had in the past, whether it was friendships or whether it was, actual like partners, relationships. And I think about what I felt like when the relationship first ended, and then what it felt like after months or years or, just a lot of time passed. And it's the fact that after that, you can still care about somebody, but like you're not in dire need for them to come back or for you to prove anything, or, if they move on with their life and you move on with yours, like it is what it is, right? So I think that when we feel like this, it's just because we are still emotionally connected. And that's really where I still am. Like, I'm still grieving. My heart is still very much tied to this person. I'm still very much connected to this person because we shared a life together. And it wasn't just a casual relationship. It was, a future. It was a family. It was our daily lives and figuring out how we tied and meshed and how we could work together. Like, that's not just a simple thing. And so when you are connected to someone in that way, don't like just act like nothing happened. Don't act like you don't care, because that's not the truth. And once that connection fades, once that heart is, no longer tied or is able to detach, and it does happen, like, then, you move on. But I will say and this comes from my own experience, you don't move on if you don't sit with it. You might just find temporary replacements. You might just find temporary distractions. This was the first part of my early 20s, just finding distraction after distraction after distraction when my feelings were hurt. And truthfully, after every relationship ended, it ended the exact same. I cycled and I still felt attached to some other person who I didn't, fully grieve. And so if we actually go through the process, if we actually go through and process our emotions and feel and like not just find the easy way out, you can become detached. And that's a hard truth. That makes us sad, because when we're attached to someone, it's like, I don't want that person, to ever leave me, or like leave my heart. But that is what happens. We are able to move on and detach from people. And then, we don't want to prove anything to them. And that is how it should be when someone is no longer in our lives. Truth number 4, you can be grateful without ever opening up the door for them again. You can have good memories. You can have life lessons. There can be hardships that you faced together. I told you with this person, we faced parenting for the first time for the both of us with each other. That was huge. Like that wasn't just a moment that, that I was like taking for granted or anything. That was one of the most important pieces in my relationship, that someone was doing that with me. You go through these things. There's good things that come with this. Like, you didn't just stay in that relationship for nothing. There were good things that happened. There might have been bad things too. There might have been things that were not good or not healthy, but there were good things. And I'm not saying overlook the bad because of the good. Oftentimes that's when we cycle. That's when we stay in relationships that we should have left a long time ago, because we're just holding on to the good things. But if you start to lose peace, and then that means that the bad has overstayed its welcome. That's when it's just like, okay, I'm going to be grateful for what it is. And this is what it is, what I'm seeing, what's happening. And it doesn't mean that anybody has the right to do you wrong. And you should never validate or justify just because there are good things. You can experience grief and anger and sadness and still move on and still be grateful for the good things that you did have. So the last thing that I want to go through today is, how do we actually rewire our brains now? Because now we have the information, but now if our brains are automatically like, I'm angry, I'm resentful, right? And we're going to go through our emotions. That is normal. It is totally normal. But we need to make sure we're not acting out of our emotions. And we need to be able to move on from them, right? And if we can rewire our brains so we're not hung up on the bad, so we're not stuck, and so we're not cycling, but when we're able to go through things and release them and take them for, reality, what they were, and also be able to find something that we learned in the process, something that's going to make us better, that is a beautiful, beautiful thing. So number 1 is, we're going to go from asking ourselves these questions. Why was I not enough? Why was I replaced? Why did they move on so fast? How could they betray me like this? We're going to move on from these questions. And instead, we're going to ask ourselves, what did they do to help me get through this thing? What did they do to help me? What did I learn? How did I grow? It's as simple as that. There always is going to be something. Just like when I say in previous podcasts, there's always something that you can take accountability for. There always is usually something that can really be good. There always can be something that you can take from, right? Something you can take accountability for, something that you can learn. There has to be something. And take what I say with a grain of salt for the second time. Like, there are some things that are just not good. Like, it's just not for you. You never should have been in it. Like, there are always exceptions to what I say. But usually we can find something good that we can take with us. Number 2, I really like this one. Not everyone is a villain. We have to remember, hurt people hurt people. I said before, I don't necessarily believe in bad people. I believe in evil. Like, let me be clear. I don't necessarily believe in bad people. I think that the very, like, bad, I'm doing quotations even though you can't see it, the bad people, that those people are oftentimes hurt very, very, very badly. The people that end up in, in doing things that are not okay, oftentimes face childhoods that were abusive, hurtful, extremely traumatic. And it doesn't make anything right. There will never, ever, ever, ever be justification for people doing the wrong thing. There never can be. Like, to give excuses to people for doing the wrong thing when we are all responsible for ourselves. We are all responsible for healing. We are all responsible for doing the right thing. And if we give excuses to people who hurt other people, it just is making the world, like, not a good place. But we can understand that hurt people hurt people. Sometimes people are just incapable. Sometimes people lack coping skills, that they just have not learned yet what it takes to go through a certain situation. They are just not simply capable of loving you the way that you need to be loved. It doesn't mean that they're incapable of love. It just maybe means that, a different style of love, or whatever the case is, like a different love language is more of their thing. People have different capabilities. People have different strengths, different weaknesses. And the truth is that some people really are incapable of, empathy. Some people are really incapable of being honest and being honest with themselves. And that comes with the title, and that's called narcissism. But there are some incapabilities, and then there just are some areas in which, people just lack the coping skills. And a lot of that sometimes can be intentional, and sometimes it is just completely unintentional. People are simply doing the best that they can with what they have. I look back and I think of my life, and I think of what I know now versus what I once didn't. Like, even when I first became a parent, there's a million and one things that I did wrong that I would never do now. But I just didn't know, right? You only can go with what you know. People change. People also grow apart. The people change part, that's what really, like, freaks me out. I think this one is okay to an extent. Like, people change. Like, you can grow, but to, like, turn into a completely different person, right? I was so blindsided by what happened. And so when people change, whatever your motive is, like, whatever your choice, whatever, just, I don't know, be real about the change. Like, I had a change of heart. I decided this is not the road for me. I don't know. But, like, you make yourself more of a villain when you try to hide it, or if it's confusing to the other person, or if it's random. Like, I don't know. Communication would be really nice in those situations when people just blindside us. I'm just being honest. And number 3, focus on what stayed, not what left. This has been a huge one with my kids. When someone leaves your life who is no longer there, focus on what you gained. Focus on what you had with that person. For instance, with my kids, it was, okay, what are the memories that can stay with us? We literally had a book that talked about this, where it explained to my kids as we read it, like, these are all the things that you do with people, the activities and the conversations and the fun plan, like all the things, and how you can hold on to those, and you can hold on to those memories, and you can hold on to pictures. And so, we go through that process, and we grieve, and it just makes me realize all the wonderful things that when you have certain seasons with people that really can stay with you. It makes me think about past people in my life who it's been years and years and years since I've experienced a certain season with them. And I still carry them with me, whether it was a memory, whether it was something that they told me, whether it was a lesson, I still carry it with me. Like, how special is that? You can carry, the resilience that you learned, the strength, the communication that you learned, and all of the things that stay, specifically for my kids that I went through was like, okay, your teachers still are here. Your mom, me, I'm still here. Your sister, your brother, your grandparents, your aunt, we still have stability. We still have structure. Rules and structure was really, really important for my kids. I wanted them to know that like their life still could look normal. Like, we're going to grieve, we're going to process these feelings, and we can take lots and lots of breaks. It's okay if things don't look like they normally do, because they don't. Like, we're not going to put it on a rug and pretend like we don't see it. It is what it is. But it was really important that I maintained that structure for them, because we have to focus on the fact that certain things can stay. And when we have people that come into our lives, those things can stay with us. They can stay in our heart. We don't have to focus so much on the fact that, okay, this person left, this person is no longer my life, this is what we planned. But what can you take with you that was so special, that helped you learn? Or maybe it wasn't special at all. Maybe it sucked. But what can you take with you from that season with that person that taught you something about yourself, that taught you a lesson, that is going to help you get to the next season? So I want to leave you with this thought. Some chapters in our lives are not meant to last forever. And the problem is, we keep trying to reread chapters that have already ended, hoping that the ending will actually just change. We go back in our minds, we replay conversations, we think about what we should have said, what we should have done, and how we could have fixed it, how we could have made them stay. But not every chapter is yours to rewrite. Some chapters are meant to close, not because you failed, not because you weren't enough, but because that part of your life is complete. And if you keep trying to hold on to a chapter that is already ended, you will miss the next chapter that is trying to begin. Some people were never meant to be in your whole story. They were just meant to be a lesson, a blessing, a turning point, a season of growth, a chapter, but not the whole book. And that's okay. Because every person who came into your life and left, they still changed you. They still taught you something. They still helped shape the person that you are today. So instead of asking, why did they leave? Maybe we start asking, what did they teach me before they left? And maybe we stop trying to prove something to the people who are no longer in our lives and start proving to ourselves that we can move forward, we can grow, we can heal, and we can write the next chapter anyway. Because your story did not end when they left. That chapter just ended. And the next chapter might be the one that changes everything for you. Thanks so much for listening today. Remember, you don't ever have to walk this road alone. You are doing so great. I am so proud of you. You deserve good things. Keep choosing the high road, even when it gets hard. And I can't wait until we meet again next time on the High Road Podcast. God bless you.